Being mindful is the practice of maintaining a non-judgmental state of heightened or complete awareness of one's thoughts, emotions, or experiences on a moment-to-moment basis, which can be extremely important while trying to understand and learn more about mental health. So let me welcome you to Mindful Thoughts. My name is Deloris, and I feel like my mission in life is to help break down those barriers around mental wellness by sharing personal stories, tips, and confessions of mental health to help us shine a light on mental wellness. So what are we waiting for? Let's dive in. So today's episode was supposed to be something different. I had a whole different concept in mind of what I wanted to talk to you guys about, but then my depression hit, and it hit last Wednesday, and I could feel it creeping up. So I told myself, you know what, I'm not going to deal with it, I'm just going to push it down. So I pushed it down Wednesday, I pushed it down Thursday, and by Friday I had emotionally drained myself from pushing it down because I didn't want to deal with it. And after work, we came home and I cried because I had pushed down so many emotions that I wasn't allowing myself to deal with. And I knew that during this past weekend, I wanted to record an episode. But I told myself, with the way I feel, there's no way I'm going to be able to record an episode and to portray and get the message across the way I want it to. So I told myself by Monday, if I feel better, I will sit down and I will record an episode. So this morning I kept thinking about this episode that I wanted to record, and it just wasn't aligning with how I felt. And then it dawned on me that I'm going to just do a whole different type episode than I was going to originally do. And the episode I'm doing today is talking about being consistent while dealing with a mental health illness. And this just aligned with me so much because of how I've been feeling. Feeling like if I am not able to succeed in getting an episode out, then how am I going to consistently have people listen to my episodes and consistently be there if I'm not consistent myself? And it dawned on me this morning on Instagram. I every morning post a inspirational picture that has words and stuff to start my day, and when I find them, they connect with me. So I decide I'm going to put them out there so maybe somebody else will read it and I'll connect with them. And it's crazy that this morning the picture I put up says, "Consistency is harder when no one is clapping for you. You must clap for yourself during those times. You should always be your biggest fan." So I said to myself, holy crap, with how I've been feeling, with not being able to consistent when my depression pops up, or when I am just not in a good mood, or I know that when I portray my message it's not going to come out with what I posted this morning, and then feeling the way I have, I'm like, this is insane. This is so aligned with me. It is crazy how to go for your dreams and to go for your goals, you have to be consistent. But what happens when you're dealing with a mental health illness and consistency is hard for you? There are so many of us who want to go for those dreams and goals, but we're being held back because we feel like if we're not consistent enough, people aren't going to follow us. If we don't post enough on our stories, if we don't post enough during the week on Instagram, if we don't tweet enough, if we don't do Instagram reels, people aren't going to watch us. If you do YouTube, you have to have a video come out at least once a week or twice a week, and then a podcast has to be recorded and you have to get it out, and for a normal person, it can seem overwhelming, but for somebody suffering from a mental health illness, it can just seem crippling. How do I stay consistent when I feel the way I feel? For me, how do I stay consistent when I knew that if I recorded an episode during the weekend that it was not going to come out the way I thought it was going to come out? I knew that it was not going to help anybody. But then to realize it's because I've been so consistent with posting my podcast every single week that it was killing me on the inside knowing that if I don't post something, then I'm letting myself down. And then it made me think like, well, I'm letting the people down who watch my podcast on YouTube or who listen to my podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever they listen to. Like, I'm letting them down. And it was crazy because here I am, not in the right headspace and dealing with what I'm dealing with, but I'm more concerned about how I'm going to convey what I want to get out when I don't feel like I can get that information out. I just wanted to share that with you because what I was recording today was going to be something different than what I'm recording right now. And I just seriously felt like with the Instagram post on my story and then thinking about how I've been so consistent with like every time getting stuff out and being there and sharing stuff with you guys, like it was insane of how much it clicked for me today to be like, how many of us are suffering and we want to stay consistent with what we're doing? Anything. Like I said, recording that podcast episode, writing that book, doing that YouTube video, showing up in life. How many of us are crippled by what we're going through and we feel like if we don't do what we need to do and if we don't record that episode or show up for life, like people are going to be upset. And people, like, I think we think that people are going to be upset if, like me, if I don't post an episode, people are going to be upset. But really, like, they're not going to be upset. Like, the people who connect with you and understand you will understand if you need to take a second, step back, and, take care of yourself. Because a lot of people, that go through, like, a mental health illness, they just want, like, to be on a normal schedule like everybody else. But when your body shuts down, and sometimes you just have to take care of yourself. So I told myself on Saturday morning when I woke up feeling the way I was feeling, like there's no way I'm going to be able to record something and have it come out the way I wanted to come out, and I'm not going to force myself to do it. And then I told myself, that's okay. On Sunday I will put on an episode and I will get it done and have everything good. But then I was halfway through Sunday and I'm like, I just can't do it. So as much as I want to be consistent for you guys and for my podcast and for everything that I want to do in my life, sometimes I have to take a step back. And I want to let somebody know today that it's okay to take that step back and take care of yourself. It's okay to take those times where you want to get something done and you just know that you can't do it, to just not do it. Because I would rather you take a step back and take care of yourself and a few days from then be like, oh yeah, this is the day, I can definitely do it now, than to force yourself to do something when you don't feel like doing it. And I've done that before where I have recorded an episode just to get an episode out, and then when I listen back to it, it's not something that I liked and I enjoyed. And there are many times when I record episodes and I listen to them when I'm editing them and I just don't like it at all. So you know what, I just don't put it out because I'm like, I'm not going to put out something that I don't think somebody else is going to like. And that's okay. So I've realized with myself with being consistent, it's okay if I'm not always consistent. It's okay if I miss a week to take care of myself, or when I just don't have that motivation or that energy to do it, like, it's fine. And if you're at the point right now that like being consistent with you and for you is hard, then just don't do it. Like, do what you need to do for you. Like, dealing with a mental health illness on its own is hard, and no one will ever understand what you're going through. People who also have depression, they get how I feel. And people who are going through and dealing with anxiety, like, you understand how I feel. But how I deal with it and how I take care of myself is going to be different than how you do it. So you can absolutely connect with other people who have the same disorder as you, because obviously some of the things are the same, but when you think about it, it's going to be different on how everybody stays consistent with what they want to stay consistent with. And it might be helpful for you to maybe reach out to somebody else that you know who is also suffering from what you're suffering from, and just say, hey, like, I'm having trouble, staying consistent with, writing my book or recording this podcast episode. Like, how do you do it? Because I don't know if a lot of people will say it, but I'm hoping that a lot of people will say, like, I just don't force myself to do something I can't do. Like, I take a step back and I take care of myself, and then when I'm ready, I show up and I knock it out of the park. Because there's nothing that says you're not into it when you're not into it. There's nothing that says you don't want to be recording an episode or doing whatever you're doing when you don't feel like it. Like, there is a reason why people get motivated to do things and they push themselves to do things, but when you're struggling, those moments where you should be pushing are hard. And those moments when you think you need to keep going, you actually don't. It is going to be so more important to you to take care of yourself than to constantly push yourself until you're exhausted, because you know what's going to happen is that you're going to think you need to be consistently showing up. I need to consistently be showing up on my stories so people know and can connect with me. I need to constantly be posting on my feed so people can interact with me. I need to be constantly doing whatever you think you need to be constantly doing to have that connection. And over time, because you're just pushing yourself and pushing yourself and pushing yourself to be consistent, you're going to burn yourself out. And you're going to push yourself past that limit where you think you need to put yourself out there more than taking care of yourself. And at some point, it's going to come to a head and you're going to hit a wall, and then it's going to be hard to do anything. It could be for days, for weeks, for months. So as much as I wanted to record an episode, I knew I just didn't have it in me. And I'm sharing this with you because I think, like I said, not for just people who are struggling, just for people in general, we think we need to stay consistent because that's how we feel. We feel like consistency is the way to get ahead in life and a way to, again, connect with people. But at the end of the day, when you're suffering from a mental health illness and you know that you just can't show up, then don't show up. Like, I would rather have you take care of yourself and take that time to reconnect with yourself and center yourself, and then come back and be able to put out whatever you need to put out, and feel confident doing it. Like, I don't want people to do things and then regret doing them because in their eyes it wasn't perfect or it wasn't exactly the way they wanted it to, but because they need to put something out, they just put something out. Like, there is also a reason I am never consistent on posting just on my feed on Instagram, because I take the time to really think about what I want to say and what I want to put out there and the pictures related to it, because that's my way of putting out something that is really going to have value and really going to connect with people. Like, I feel like people just feel like they have to be consistent and they just post willy-nilly stuff that people just really don't care about. And people aren't going to connect with you if you're just always posting just stuff that doesn't align with you, or you're just posting to post. And it's just your way of staying consistent because you have to be. But I think if we just took a step back and realized we need to just post things that we want to post, and we need to be on our stories if we want to be on our stories, and we need to record those episodes when we feel like we can record those episodes, and we need to show up when we know we can show up 100%. Because if you don't feel like showing up, then when you try to show up, it's just not going to be you, and it's not going to be what you wanted to portray. It's just going to be there because you think that you have to do it, because you think that if you don't, then the people who support you and are there for you are going to stop being there for you. And to truly, the people who connect with you and who are happy to see you on your stories, or to happy to see you post, or happy to listen to your podcast, or watch your YouTube channel, or read your books, or whatever you're producing out in this world, those people will support you. And for me, I usually post on Saturdays, on my story, and I just put one post that said, hey guys, I hope you have a really good weekend, but I am just going to take the weekend to take care of myself. My depression hit really hard, and I will be back hopefully on Monday if I feel up to it. And if I don't feel up to it, I'm just not going to do it. Like, I'm not going to force myself anymore to do things that aren't mentally good for me and are going to put me, in a bad headspace if I just keep pushing forward and keep pushing forward. So if you're having trouble staying consistent, I completely understand it. I get the feeling of always wanting to show up and be there, but sometimes you don't have to. You don't have to be consistent. You don't always have to be there. It is absolutely okay to take time for yourself. It is absolutely okay to take a step back and do what you need to do for you, and then show up when you can show up, because life is what you make it. And if you just, like I said, keep pushing yourself, you're going to burn yourself out, and you're going to get to the point where you don't enjoy doing what you're doing. You don't enjoy reaching for those goals. Like, you're not, the joy you had for what you like to do is going to fade because you've pushed yourself past that limit of where, like, you just don't enjoy it anymore because you're forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do. Like I said, today's episode was supposed to be something totally different, but consistency for me and showing up for my podcast and everything, like, this episode for me was just like, it hit home, because knowing how I felt the last 5 days and knowing that if I would have shown up to record the episode I wanted to record, like, it wouldn't have been the same as if, like, I waited until I was okay and in the right headspace to record it. So that's why I decided today, like, I'm just going to switch it up, and I'm going to speak honestly with you guys and talk about how it can be hard to be consistent while dealing with a mental health illness, because it is. And I recently, within the last 5 days, realized, like, my urge to stay consistent was pushing my mental health aside, because I felt like I had to be there and I had to produce something. And then I realized, like, you know what? I don't. Like, if I need to take a break, I'm going to take a break. And I encourage you to take a break. Like, we need to take care of ourselves first, and then we need to show up for what we need to show up later. Like, of course, if you have to go to work and stuff, like, I think that's different. You still can go out and you can go to work and do what you need to do, but, like, whatever you're passionate about, if you get to the point where mentally you're just not in the right place, stop, take a breather, and take care of yourself, and realize that when you take care of yourself and you have that time to really, do the self-care and take care of your body, your mind, and your soul, and you get yourself in that right mind place to then be able to come back as strong and stronger than you were before, like, that's going to be more amazing for you, and you're going to be able to create things you didn't think you were going to be able to create because you're in the right headspace. Like, trying to create something when you're not in the right headspace is not going to help you. So I really just wanted to share this with you guys because it just hit home for me, and I'm like, this is it. Like, this is how I feel, and I think a lot of people out there feel the same way with whatever they're trying to contribute to this world. And sometimes you just have to take that step back, and you have to take care of yourself, and you have to do what you need to do for yourself to show up stronger on another day. So no matter what, like, if you have a schedule for when you want to do something, like, if that doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And I don't want you to shame yourself or to get upset with yourself. Like, give yourself grace, because nobody knows what you're going through, and sometimes it's harder to push yourself when you're not really in the right space mentally to try to do what you want to do. So just remember that being consistent is hard, I think, just normally for people, but it's going to be hard when you're suffering from a mental health illness, and don't let that hold you back from whatever dreams and goals you have for your life and those things that you want to do, because you'll be able to do them. It's just going to be the right timing and the right amount of personal clarity to be able to produce what you want to produce when you're in the right space and mind space to do that. So, like always, I want you to remember that you are never alone, and that I love you. Thank you so much for listening to another episode. And you know what would be so amazing? If you shared, left a comment, and liked this episode. Any type of support and love for this podcast is going to help it grow more and more every day. I'm so grateful to have you here, and I'll talk to you again soon.